just send me the link on Facebook, and then I'll send it to Jake, and then we'll post it, and we'll get this going. Are we live? Are we live?
I did just hit the start broadcasting, but I don't quite have the traffic you have, so
it's okay.
I think we're pretty safe. Otherwise, they get to see a little of the behind the scenes, and that's our style anyway. So.
All right, that's cool. Well, then, whenever you can give me that link, then I'll send it over, and then we'll get. We'll just keep on going, and they'll just have to watch us go from there. All right.
You have the link.
All right, great. All right. Now, can you? You're gonna have to click on our faces to keep us in the one like talking.
Okay, I just have to get back into it here.
Okay. Or you can just leave it on me or Jake. It doesn't matter if you don't want to switch it.
Let's keep the hero on the screen here.
Okay.
So serious.
Now, are you guys getting to that background noise again, or is it okay now?
I think it's good.
Okay.
It's not too bad. All right, Jake. What can I say about this? Let's just get started, and let's get finished, or how do we? I guess that's a better word for it. So, what were you were talking about the sharpshooter construct, and you can just finish that thought, and then we can go from there.
Oh, the sniper. Yeah, I think that the sniper rifle that we just saw pop up in the White Lantern set, that's a game changer. Being able to give any character on the map 10 range is amazing. Now you could have Lydia Malore without running shot, place 5 and shoot 10. That's crazy. Ryan?
Yep. I was just sending you the link.
Oh, okay.
No, the sniper rifle gives you 10 range, and that pretty much gives every character the possibility to hit you.
Well, it's 10 range from anywhere on the map. You put like a Lydia Malore with parallax on her. She could technically have Psychic Blast, place 5 and shoot 10 range more. That's better than running shot because it's not a free action when Lydia Malore places 5 and then shoots 10. That's crazy. On wide open maps, you could be in a lot of trouble unless you prepare for something like that.
Yeah, I didn't even think of Lydia, but honestly, it makes every figure crazy. I think someone was talking about, give it to Hulk, and he's like this Hulk bazooka or something. Like, okay, it's crazy.
With no stipulations on it, I don't understand it. Only 6 points. I don't know how you can't play that thing.
No, so now if you play it, it's a White Lantern construct. Now this is honestly a little bit of insight. I'm sure you brought it up, so it's out there. Now, if you're going to play it, do you play it with a White Lantern battery, or do you play it with the Green Lantern battery? Because if you do it the White Lantern ring, you get the stop click. If you play with the Green Lantern, you get willpower. So I guess it depends on what you're looking for.
I think right now in the game, the way it's going, if you don't limit free actions, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because you look at like the power battery. If you don't limit free actions, the power battery will still tear right through you with burning rings. However, if you run into, if you do play the power battery to limit free actions, you do run into like a power plant bullseye team, like a bullseye team. They can't burn a ring to increase stats and then running shot in the same turn. It just doesn't work. So I don't know if if you're going to play it. I think that you can break the battery up that way to keep the sniper rifle. I don't know. It's one of those things right now where I don't think there's an answer for everything. So if you do end up going with the way of the White Lantern sniper rifle, I think you could be limiting yourself to other things. It's hard right now, though, because we're seeing the same type of things over and over show up. I don't think there's definitely one answer that fits everything, You can have an 80-85% chance of winning against most teams, but if you have that one bad matchup, you're in trouble.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, it seems like this year more than any other year, there is a lot more matchups out there. Like, you're not going to probably run into the same exact team that you're playing, unlike last year where it was basically Ghost Rider and a little bit of Pit Crew, which the Pit Crew was basically the same. Maybe you had a Batmite, or maybe you had Brother booted. I mean, basically that was the 85% of the teams. Now we have what? Iron Pharaoh, we have Bullseye, we have Phantom X. There's the Copycat with New Mutants. I mean, these are all teams that we see. What was the we have? Well, there's some Lydia meta going on there, but she's kind of maybe not dropped off, but she's kind of been hidden for the last couple months.
Lydia's going to have a really hard time with that ruling that if she goes first, she can't steal something from the power battery. That could really, really hurt it,
Right. So if you... Wait a second. Okay, so if you play against a Lydia team and you win initiative, then what? You just make her go first?
Yeah, you just let her go first. You win initiative, you let her go first, she can't steal anything off your power battery.
But what if she wins, then she's going to let you go first, so then she can steal it.
But, you look at something like that, though, where if you have a theme team,
right,
you are playing a power battery, and the Lydia team's not playing a theme team, it's, it's always everything. There's a gamble. There's not an answer for everything. I mean, I'm sure there will be Lydia Malores at Gen Con,
sure.
But I don't think she's nearly the threat that she was, 3 months ago for stealing something.
Right.
And we're also seeing a lot of utility belt teams again. She's not nearly as effective on a utility belt team. Or was she going to steal your night vision goggles? Stuff like that doesn't really help as much. And if you look at the Canadian Nationals, there were a lot of belt teams out there.
There was a lot of belt teams, and I didn't even see any Lydia teams. I could have missed one or two, but she didn't seem like she was being played quite a bit, or at least not as much as she was played a couple months ago.
Yeah, and it's not that she's a bad piece. I mean, I won WonderCon with Lydia. She's an amazing piece. But again, I think that there's enough other things that people have figured out, that to get past her,
Right.
She's not as crippling as she once was, I don't think. It used to be teams that would build around trying to keep their Angry Hammer or something like that. And then there's also still the threat of copycat that was out there, you run into a Lydia Malore team, the first thing you want to take is a copycat.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on? Now we don't want to discuss what you're playing or anyone that they're playing because we don't give anything away. But what are your thoughts on the New Mutants copycat? Because honestly, for me, I'm not that impressed with it, to be honest. But maybe I'm missing something.
When the Majestics guys ran it, I think it was just something that caught people off because it was just something different that they didn't, people hadn't ran into before.
Right.
People knew New Mutants. It won at DragonCon last year when Nick played it. It was a great, it was a great piece. But then when you can throw copycat in there, keep theme, and then start stealing pieces, I think it just really put people on tilt. Once people were able to figure it out, I think Ross played it at the qualifier for Nationals yet in the finals. And I think he went 1-3 that day with it. Maybe 2-2, I'm not sure, but I know it wasn't nearly as effective. And then the other part to copycat is now that we have the nurse out there, you literally can get your figure back first turn. You just assign the nurse to somebody, copycat uses their regen, first turn you get your figure back. So I'm not really much worried about copycat. You might see it in the qualifiers, but I don't think it's going to show up in the finals because there's way too many counters for it right now.
Right. It's kind of funny because the constructs, I mean, in a way that they're not complete, but then, and again, they are complete enough that I think the batteries will definitely show up. And maybe a month ago, I thought, they're not going to show up because most people are going to want to complete. But then you look at it, they've got so many Green Lantern constructs out there, even though War of Light is super hard to get. But all you need to do is get three, even 2 constructs, and you still can play with it, so.
Yeah, you can throw the catapult on it. You can throw whatever else on it. I mean, there's so many different options with it. The one drawback, though, to the power batteries, it's pricey. You can get really expensive, really fast. You can get into 40, 50 points if you want to run it on 4 or 5 characters. That's a good portion of your team, especially throw an entity here or there. You can get really pricey really fast.
Right. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I've definitely looked at it, and some of the team builds I was looking at, I definitely saw what you're saying. Wow, this is it fills those gaps really quickly, a little bit more quickly than I thought, because I'm really big at filling, every point, 300 points I want to get right up to the max, and right now, the filler of filler is like what 25-point Bizarro, like it's pretty good for 25 points. And then what the Sky's Warhammer, and at least some of the builds I was looking at, I was like, dang, I don't know. It's like, do I play the battery or like I don't know. It's this year is difficult to build for Gen Con. But there's a lot of good teams out there. You can bring a really, really good team, and it still may not do well because there's so many other options.
Well, and that's the thing right now. It's going to be either something that we've seen, like a new combination of it, like Patricia played that Iron Pharaoh team,
Right.
And Nick playing the Wizard team. That's all figures that we've seen just put together in a different way.
Correct.
On the flip side of it too, though, you've got on the flip side of it too, though, there's so many other combos out there with, that we just might not be seeing. But one thing to note again, I don't think that the entities that were just released in Wave 2 are nearly as game-changing as they were with Parallax, Ophidian, Adara, Despotellis.
Right.
I mean, there's combos out there. I'm still going through them, but I'm just I don't know if people are going to be able to put things together in enough time to actually make them work and feel comfortable with them,
Yeah, no, I agree. I looked at them and people are talking like the Ion and they're talking about Predator, and I'm not necessarily sure if they're talking about it because they think it's like the piece to play, or if they just want it because it's cool, or it's Ion because it's the Green Lantern. And the Ion is cool because you get to pick 2 powers, but I was looking at the stats and the powers, I was like, it's not game changing. Like Impervious is great, but
yeah, unless you have like an 8, 9, 17, 2 or something like that with Ion, you're not really increasing any, you can't really increase any stats.
Yeah, that was one thing I was looking at, because you're starting you'd have to start at a 17 to get a boost on your defense. It's like, yeah. Okay.
So you're looking at like a 50-point character. Do you really want to dump 25 points more into a 50-point character with 3 or 4 clicks?
Right. I don't know. Like, there's some cool things like Patricia's team, like Cersei. I've always loved that figure, but I looked at her again after that, and I'm like, wow, there's some stuff to do with her, but she's only 60 points. And I'm like, she could be a solid second attacker, I think, especially with like a Green Lantern, the Green Lantern ring. You can give her willpower, and
And then she'd increase her stats if you run the power battery with her. Yeah, she's not a bad figure at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played around with it quite a bit, but again, though, the thing is that there's Pulse Wave is hamper right now because there's a lot of Ophidians out there now. There's a lot of them.
That's true. There is. Do you think this year is going to be more important to Alpha Strike or not so much? Because what do we have? Like Phantom X is a little bit faster, I believe, or a lot faster than Iron Pharaoh, but Iron Pharaoh is a little bit slower, but maybe more protected. I don't know, because like with the Falcon can go a lot quicker and get around a little bit better than Eve.
Well, here's where we start talking about some stuff that gets stupid. What happens when you start putting the sniper rifle now on Phantom X?
Yeah, I know.
You're now 10 squares through Eva. He's crossing the map a lot faster than Iron Pharaoh is.
Right.
I think the team that wins this year is going to be able to. You've got to be able to absorb an Alpha Strike in a certain way that doesn't cripple you.
Right.
I think that you've got to be able to deal with, like a double barrier team. I mean, there's so many teams out there that are amazing, but they can't get through that double barrier. Someone's going to be barriering in the corner while they're taking shots at you.
Right.
You've got to be able to figure out how to get past Wizard and Speed Demon. Because both of those figures, if you're not prepared, can really, really hurt you. But we are in a place right now, though, where there's enough counters out there that I think we'll be able. I'm excited to see what comes. In fact, I just plan on spending the whole first day just walking while people are playing the qualifiers, just walking past and seeing what else is out there.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You have the buy because you won Worlds last year, and they're not Golden Age this year. So, do you even have the option to get a buy in the team, or is it just basically Modern?
Well, it's something we didn't even talk about, but I mean I'd take Modern probably over the team one anyways.
Yeah, because I think I would agree. I would do the same thing because that's a lot. I think that'd be a lot more of a strenuous task to get qualified in Modern than team, because you have the thought you'd be able to bring in another 2 good players to get you in there.
I like the idea of the team tournament. It's unique. It gives more people a chance to play. Play in the finals, another option. But I'm the type of player too, though. Like as much as I love to help other people out too, I hate if I do something and then it's on me because we lost. That if everyone else on the team wins, and you lose, it's always not a good place to be.
That is true. I would imagine that there's that pressure to not fail. I mean, because at least by yourself, you only have yourself to blame, or yourself to just be like, well, it just didn't work out. But like if your teammates, you don't want to let your teammates down.
Yeah. So it should be good though. Like I said, I think there's a lot more people coming to Gen Con this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see 200 people in each qualifier.
Wow. Yeah. God.
I think that one of the biggest thing is it's the access to information because of things like Facebook, Twitter, Realms. People have more access to the information, which means there's more people that can find out about Gen Con, or they can find out about what's going on. They can see tournament reports. The RLCs, I think, have helped out quite a bit too because people have had more experience playing in tournaments, which then makes them feel more comfortable to go out to something like Gen Con and play.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I mean, because before the Rocks, there was Clicksathon, and then Nationals and Gen Con, and if you didn't live in any of those areas, you didn't really know where you stood in the HeroClix competitive, whatever, other than your local venue. But there's some good areas that have really strong local, areas, but you're still not going to pull in a bunch of people. But like, say now if you have a Rock in California, yeah, the California players are really good, but also you're going to probably bring in some people that wouldn't typically go to your venue. So I think, yeah, that's a good point, that the Rock events are probably getting people more confident and say, hey, wait, I might be able to do good at Gen Con. Let me go,
Yeah. It's like I said, and then that's back to that local meta. I've been really watching a lot of the RLCs lately, and stuff that's winning in the South isn't winning other places. You have those local player bases. So I'm really excited to see what it is that's out there. I mean, we could have something out there that doesn't nobody's ever seen before, nobody's ever thought of before, that could just blow everyone else away.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, we'll go back to George Massu's team last year just because it was one of those teams that no one did see coming. Like, there was so much Ghost Rider that I think almost to the point where people were scared not to play Ghost Rider. And he walks in with this team, and you're like, not only is it good, but it's really brilliant. And, I think everyone wants to see people come to these big tournaments with teams just like that. They're like, dude, you're ballsy. You said I'm not going to play these 3 figures. I'm going to play something else. And not only, it's better than all that other stuff. And give or take. I mean, you know what I mean. It's like any team can be beat, but it also can have a better chance of beating other teams.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing right now. I mean, I've got teams that I can get where I feel comfortable 80-85% win rates against most teams. You can't beat everything right now, so I'm just trying to do my best. I mean, a lot of it's matchups. Like, you go back and look at Nationals. Adam's team only went 1-3 going into the finals that he played. In the qualifier.
Right.
I beat him when we played in our qualifier. And then when we got down to the the finals, he just had great matchups all the way through. Some lucky dice rolls his way, and he ended up becoming the national champion because of it, playing the same team that went 1-3 just 2 days before.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this year, more than others, matchups are going to play a huge part. Like, you may see a team that you do not want to face, and you may not end up facing it, and you could do really well if your team's like, I can beat every other team, but if I face this team, I'm done. And so,
which is interesting too, going over teams this year. The entities, they are game changers, but they're also pretty pricey. So some of these teams you're seeing 3 and 4 entities on them. Would it be better just to bring another 100 figures into the game? So that's what's going to be interesting too, to see. Will the winning team have an entity on it? Probably. Will it have 5 or 6 entities on it? I doubt it. I really doubt it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. In the race to get the entities, I don't know if any of the new wave ones are that much better than Parallax or Ophidian. And unfortunately, Parallax and Ophidian are all over the place right now. There's a lot of people.
Right. I mean, I definitely have a feeling that I would think you would see a team with.
He just loses internet again. That's the second time tonight. Third
Yeah,
time.
we just lost him again.
Where were we at with it?
I kind of phased out at that point, but you guys were talking about the entities, and I know he had mentioned that there's a race, and you could get caught off guard with some of them. I don't know where he was going directly, so hoping he gets back into the chat soon. I'm not seeing a lot of questions over at my end in the comments section right now, or any such thing. I don't know if your chat's live or any questions going right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though, man. Like, realistically going forward, when you went into the Canadian one, I just talked about that for a second, setting it up. When you went in the Canadian one, how confident were you going into it?
Well, going in with my team in particular, it tested very well against my local players. I think that actually might have turned out to be a weakness to it too. I'm not 100% sure if it was more or less I was catching my players off guard. I had a really close game in the first round on day one with Kevin Afruz. He was piloting the New Mutants and Copycat, and I hadn't realized really close to the end of the game, or it wasn't until I got to the second round that I realized that the last roll I made was a critical miss that actually could have won me the game.
Wow.
So, but the thing about my team going in, I ended up going 2-1 with that team, and managed to fight off a weaponer even who was right in my face. And it was the fact that I knew my team better than any of my opponents could have possibly known my team. And I think you were talking about it yourself, is going in knowing what you're playing and knowing how it works is probably more powerful than going in with what everybody else knows works.
Yeah. Well, and that's back to the local thing, though. I've had a lot of people messaging me teams the last week or so, asking what I think of this, what I think of that. How can they change their team better? It's hard though, because you can go through and you can just smoke everybody at your local venue, and you look at that team, you're like, well, it can't deal with. It doesn't have an answer if you get copycatted. It doesn't have an answer for Iron Pharaoh behind double barrier. You're gonna have a hard time against a bullseye team, but you beat your buddies. Wonder Girl team with it pretty handily. Well, that's a good team, but it may not be the type, the level that you're looking for.
Yeah. I think Ryan's back, so he can take the floor again.
Okay. There was a little feedback there for a minute or so, but I think it might be good.
What else was the question?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I don't know. Was there anything else? Oh, let's see here. Well, we talked quite a bit about some of the things I wanted to cover. I know, I wanted to cover a little bit about playtesting, but I think we pretty much talked about that a little for the most part.
I get asked a lot of how I play test. For the most part, I have a really good memory where I can keep stuff in my head. I run a lot of numbers. I know if you need to hit Ghost Rider for this amount of clicks, you need to do that type of stuff. I try to remember those types of things. But rarely do I sit down and play with a lot of other people. Sometimes I'll whip out a map and say, okay, if I place here, I can do this, I can do that. Sometimes I'll go through and play a couple of games with friends, but I don't, some of these guys, I always saw the Rubicon guys, they said they spend months and months and months and months, playing against each other, and I think that's really helpful.
Right.
But if you learn to beat the same, your buddy's team over and over and over, and then you run to a team that's not your buddy's team, I ran into that in the past before, where I'd prepare. Like, it was a California tournament. I prepared to play against cop cars. Showed up to California tournament, not one person had a cop car there on the whole tournament. That's what I was told was going to be there. That's what I prepared against. So
yeah,
advantage,
Yeah, you might have been better off not knowing that and not even prepare to just kind of be surprised instead of thinking I'm gonna face cop cars and show up and there's not a single cop car there.
Yeah. But I mean, that's how it goes sometimes.
Yeah. I'm notorious for not playtesting, and that's not necessarily a good thing. Um, but like at Gen Con last year, just for an example, like I brought a team, and I knew what it could do for the most part, and I had an idea of what my opponent's team could do, but I didn't really playtest to know what to fully expect. And I literally moved out like 5 squares, and it was against a Batmite Ghost Rider team, and that's all they needed. So I'm like, maybe if I'd have playtested, I would have said pass, or I don't know, something else, But so
Yeah.
there are minor things like that.
I watch stuff like that, I do a lot of little things too, like that. I always like that. They always talk about the meta of the game within the game, different things like that. That's one of the things I've always had the most fun with. Like, when you're playing against somebody, they always have in their mind like what their strike range is, how far they can hit you to, what their swing is.
Oh, absolutely.
I've always thought it was interesting to count out someone else's, swing right in front of them, put a marker on the map, and say, okay, I know you can get to here with including your perplex, this, and that. So I'm only going to go this far. And I've always liked doing that type of stuff, just because you see like the other side of the table, go, oh, I know what I can do. He knows what I can do. Now I don't know what to do because he's counting on that, So I've had a lot of fun with stuff like that. So.
That's actually kind of interesting because I'm sure a lot of players do similar things like that. I know I definitely I try to mentally do it so that they don't know, and that's kind of interesting how you deliberately let them know, and then I guess that would probably mess with your mind even more. You're just thinking like, wait a second. Not only does he know, like he's basically telling me which. Like, I'll look at stuff. I'll be like, okay, running shot. You got your full movement. Oh, wait, there's a perplex there. You have – that's like – in these kind of games, you have to – placement, I think, is probably the number one important thing in metagame or high competitive play. Because if you are out of position, even by 1 square, your opponent possibly, if they think they can do it, will alpha strike that 1 square. And if they hit you – it's probably over.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's really hard right now in the game to survive. If you've gone through and looked at like a lot of the Guardians clicks, a lot of stuff that's come out in the last couple of months, we're seeing really short dials right now. That Rocket Raccoon's 99 points, no reducer, only 19 super senses, and it's 4 clicks for the chase.
Yeah, it's 100 points, but yes. But yeah,
100 points. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at your really short dials. If you just lost a third of your team for 4 damage, it's real easy to get to 4 damage right now. So its positioning is really key right now.
Right. I mean, 4 damage can be taken out on a secondary attacker, almost like right now. Like your secondary attacker, you want them to be doing 3 to 4 damage, and maybe with perplex to get there. But I mean, geez, if your main attacker is doing like 5 or 6 damage.
I mean, even a 25-point Bizarro with range combat expert can put him down really quick.
Yeah.
So
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I looked at that Rocket Raccoon just because there's that figure is a good piece, but it is for this kind of stuff. I mean, like it just takes 1 lucky hit, he's done.
Well, not even 1 lucky hit. You run into a bullseye that that's ignoring super senses and only needs to roll a 5 or 6 to hit you. That's a third of your team in 1 attack roll.
Right. I mean, if bullseye's at 12, let's just say he's not maxed out at 15. But you're maxed out at 22 because you're in hindering and maybe you got plus stats or something. Even still, say you're a 13 on a 22. I mean, I don't know. Like maybe even if you're a 14, you're probably at a 14. It's still like 22. You're not gonna hit me. No, I have a 14, 15. Oh wow, and you precision strike me? Yeah, I mean.
And then he's got the prob on top of that, and then you throw.
Yeah, I mean he's
roll 1 less and keep rolling. So now anything but if he rolls a 4 or 5, he'll get to keep rolling for that. Well, 22 is a little harder to get to, but yeah, you can get to a 21 real easy.
Yeah, 21's super easy, but 22 you will have to get a couple. You'll have to get a little bit something, but.
But that's back to that thing though. Maybe someone's found that one little combo out there that they're going to show up with and just surprise everybody. I don't think it's a bad figure, but I guess it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Right.
Despotellus though is another one. Despotellus was on the Canadian winning team and. I played it at Origins. I think I saw 1 or 2 other Despotelluses, and that was it. No one else had it out there. But now that tech's out there, and another one of those figures you got. If you don't plan accordingly, Despotelis will tear your whole team apart. You know.
Yeah, I think the one of the big things with Despotelis is you need outwit for him. And that'd be one of the major things. If because you can't outwit the poison, but if he bases you, you just outwit that move and you can walk away from him. But if you don't have it and you can't walk away from him, you better hope you can hit a 20. I mean, that's about all I could say.
There's some other ways around it. You know, Force Blast is a big one.
Well,
It's the Impact Beam. You know, there's a couple of ways around it like that. He can be poisoned also. But it's again, though, it's something that if you don't plan for on your team, you know, that's what actually killed Patricia's team. The Canadian one was Despotelis following her, and that's what got her. You know, so there's nothing else she could have done because she would have taken poison the next click anyways. So it's interesting to see right now. I think that also too, though, we're seeing you know, there's a lot of swarm teams out there. You know, if you can't deal with 4 or 5, you know, like Scatty's Warbot, Bizarros, figures like that attacking you, you can get swarmed really, really easy right now.
Yeah, because besides the swarm teams, most of the big teams are literally like 1 or 2 figures, and if you can get them taken out or cripple them, a swarm team could really rip them apart. And like, okay, so like Iron Pharaoh right now is usually kind of barrier back, right? I mean, he's usually got a bunch of people surrounding him, but what is 18 defense, right? 18
vulnerable.
Invulnerable. So if you can get through that, to be honest with him, if you have Bill, he can go down really quick. I think if you don't have Bill, it could be very difficult to get to him.
And that's another one of those 30-point characters, Bill. You know, what are you going to do against Bill? You know, there's so many teams out there that could be very viable. Mm-hmm. But then you run into Bill because the way the wording on that power is, like one I was looking at was Streets of Gotham Starfire with the ATA on her. Great figure. Mm-hmm. You put the ATA on her where, you know, she can't be targeted by, you know, can't have line of fire drawn to her by the highest point character. That would shut down an Iron Pharaoh, or that would shut down a, you know, a Bullseye. Unless Bill is on the team, because now they don't need line of fire, so that whole ATA doesn't make any sense. So it's been really interesting. Like I said, I've gone through quite a bit of figures and teams and combos. You know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to though. You have to. If not for the team you're going to play, for the teams that you may face, you need to be ready. I mean, if anything, that's kind of what it is. You got to prepare yourself for the worst.
And that's back to what I said earlier. You know, I don't mind if I lose. You can't win every game. You know, I don't like getting caught off though. I played Patricia a couple of years ago at the qualifier, you know, for Gen Con, and I thought for sure I had her team beat when I sat down, looked at her team, overestimated or underestimated a little bit, and I didn't see how she was going to turn around and do 4 attacks with duo attack with Batman, Catwoman, and Lieutenant Gordon, and it wrecked me because I'd never seen that combo before, you know, and after I'm like, I should have paid way more attention to that. I read the cards twice. It just didn't click in my head, you know. And that's one of those things, you know, you've got to prepare for, you know, you've got to try to prepare and see what you can have that's out there. But again, you can't have everything memorized though either. There's too much stuff that's come out.
Yeah. I mean, so we'll move on a little bit here because I think we covered that a lot, and I think we're going to probably cover some more of this stuff with these other couple questions I have. What's your thoughts on like professional gaming? Now, before we go into it, we already know that there's a big market for professional gaming with like Magic the Gathering, which is probably the closest game like what we're doing. Obviously on a little bit smaller scale, but then we also have the competitive video gaming, which is kind of like, I would say is kind of like what we're trying to strive for, because they've got like huge numbers, and if like you just get a portion of that, it'd be really good. So what are your thoughts on that? What are you talking about?
I think that Clicks is in a really good place right now where they're seeing market growth because the comic business is huge right now. You know, it's big business. So I think that's helping like open the doors to quite a few people, which I think just gives us more opportunities, especially people that have played other games. And I've been fortunate this last year. I actually I probably made about $1,200 roughly playing HeroClix when all was said and done. including all of my travel. Because when I went to Gen Con, wanted enough prize money, I could put that into Dragon Con. Won cash at Dragon Con, other prizes then kept paying it forward. WonderCon, I won $400 cash and a bunch of other stuff. So
Right.
for the most part, I've been traveling and playing for free for the last year or so. Roughly, it's evened out in my favor, which is good. I'd like to see it step up a little bit more though, because one thing that I do think is a lot of people that do play other games don't take HeroClix as seriously because we haven't really had anything like that before. We haven't really had any type of professional part. I'd like to see, if people could pick up some more sponsorship stuff like that. I don't think that type of stuff and play needs to be at every single local venue, but it's fun to see, events like Gen Con and stuff like that really ramp it up a little bit more. So I think we lost Ryan again.
Yeah, we lost him again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's his internet, huh? I guess he just moved houses or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but anything else you can think of to go over? Any other questions or?
Well, we actually had a question on the YouTube comments section here. Guy is asking, and what's probably your opinion on it too, is do you think the Science Police team, the one with the or any of the Science Police builds, do you think they're still viable, still dangerous in the metagame right now?
I was really kicking around a science team build. I saw a team that I think was believed played in England where it was 3 science police officers with gates carrying them around. And for a little bit of time, I really was trying to figure that out because that's off the wall. But then when Bullseye came out, he's got that 8 range. Science police officers, you have to be within 8 range. Well, once Bullseye burns a ring, he's now 9 squares away, so the trait doesn't actually kick in. Same thing with an Iron Pharaoh that's hiding back in the corner. It's the free action after the non-free action, so he can move his Falcon first and then shoot. If he does it in that order, he won't ever take the different. Everyone ever take the damage that way, which kind of puts your team at a disadvantage there. So I think that if Bullseye and Iron Pharaoh weren't viable and people had to get up close and a little bit closer, or if Tellus, for example, was still around, we could use Tellus. I think that team would have been dominating coming out.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. The question, this one's actually for myself. Do you think the Book of Skulls is as dangerous now as it was, let's say, back when Origins was still kicking around?
When I played that Despotellus team at Origins, what really made it work was the Astral Strange, because it's a small, tiny figure, so it can be carried by the Astral Strange. So I could free move the Astral Strange and then poison with Despotellus. I could always catch up to him and never keep him in harm's way, and then just move the Astral Strange as a non-free action. It caught a lot of people by surprise, just because they hadn't seen that before, being able to move in and out with the poison like that. And there wasn't a lot of people really ready to deal with it. I think going forward, though, right now is that people, it's got to be on your mind. I think that people are going to specifically have a counter to Despotellus if it does show up. And you have to at this point, because again, if you get run into that as a bad matchup, your whole team can get taken out by that thing if you don't pay attention to it. But like I said, there's knockbacks, a way to get through it. It can be poisoned itself. You can outwit it and move. There's a couple of ways to get around it. But again, you've got to prepare for it, or it will wreck your team.
All right, I think Ryan's back.
I think we lost him again, actually.
We lost him again. Yeah, he's doing his samurai, his statue impersonation. I might have lost this in the sound, but I think you answered the question for Despotellus. Either I misspoke or I didn't ask the right question. I was actually thinking more along the lines of the Book of Skulls. Is that still a threat in the metagame?
Oh, the Book of Skulls? Yeah, the Book of Skulls, the biggest thing that it has a hard time with right now is it's really relying on free actions. You can't drop a hammer and then pick free action Quake, free action pick it up, and then do like a running shot or a charge or something like that on top of that. You can't do that anymore with the limit to free actions. I know with me personally, I'm staying away from the Book of the Skulls right now. It's something I was really considering. But if you run into that's actually what cost the guy the final game of the national tournament, national championships at Origins, is he was dependent on the free actions with the Book of the Skulls. He came out and did a running shot out an object so Lydia couldn't jump around it, and then dropped a hammer and tried to pick it up, and he'd already used his free action for the turn, and he couldn't pick up the hammer. And that kind of put him on tilt then because he was always behind his turn trying to do that. I think the Book of the Skulls it can be viable in the right matchups, but I think overall you're really limiting yourself because once you lose the free actions, you're back to with or without split lip. It doesn't really matter as much, because you still can't keep doing the free actions with it.
Yeah, you're definitely sharing my experience using it at nationals. I learned that against a couple of the power batters, you don't even need to activate a free action like White Witch has. Because White Witch also has that option of stopping or giving the power action to stop any modifiers, right? So
yeah, free action for one or power action for the other. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's back to that thing though with it. It's you can't plan for everything, but I think realistically there's going to be a lot of power batteries that'll show up because we're kind of in more of a control element. A lot of the teams that we're seeing can stop your team from doing things, the other team from doing things. Which I think is a healthy way for the game design to go. I think that if all the free action limits were around when team bases came out, I don't think people would have complained about it as much. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward. But I think that if you're really relying on the Book of the Skulls, I think that's going to be a really hard matchup going forward with you at Gen Con this year.
Yep, I totally agree on that one. It looks like we got Ryan back again.
All right. Well, I just want to cover one more last thing before my internet craps out, and we're probably.
Nope. Internet beat him to it, I think. Let's see if I can get it out of him so that I could ask for him.
Poor Ryan. I know he's a big internet guy too.
Yeah, so much of what he does relies on the internet. I mean, guy runs a glass cabinet. It's a great place to shop, and I know me and Amber have used it a couple times to buy some things, and he uses the channel to advertise for it and to, do stuff like this. So I think we're going to have to offer up our services to help him on a couple more of these, it seems.
Yeah.
We'll try to keep him alive.
If you were going to pick, though, because you guys pay quite a bit of attention, what do you think is going to win Gen Con this year?
It's going to be the team that I think either it's one of two things. It's going to be the thing nobody saw coming, or it's going to be the thing that the pilot has been piloting for a while. Like when I played against Kevin Fruz using the New Mutants and Copycat, he knew how to play that team. He wasn't making a whole lot of mistakes with it, and he knew what to do with it against my team or anything that he saw across the board. So it's one of those two things, or a combination of the both. It's going to be somebody who has something nobody saw coming and has been piloting it and knows all the tricks and everything it has.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's Ryan. He's back in.
No, I was just saying I might not be able to be in it for much longer just because of my internet. So the last thing I want to say before I go is what are your thoughts on breaking the game? Because I know you're notorious for trying to not necessarily break the game, but like push the envelope for what the game will allow. Not like any strategies, but it is wouldn't you say? I mean, like.
Well, there's a couple of parts to that too, because some people like it, some people hate it. Last year when I won with the cop cars, it was actually one of the game designers that was behind us. And after I was doing the free actions, running over Masu's team, basically just doing the free penetrating damage, not taking an action, the game designer looks at one of the deputies and he goes, or one of the judges and goes, "Is that really how this team works?" He's like, "Yeah, we've been telling you this." Like, oh, like they just didn't see it. I think that it's interesting right now with Gen Con that, coming up is you look how much different the game is now versus where the game was a year ago. Game design does listen to things. If things never break, then they would never know what to fix. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when they're looking at different types of things, I'd heard it said once that game design looks for the big tournaments to figure out where the holes are that they can patch. That's where the limit to free actions came in. That's where, you know what I mean, with some of the other changes that we've seen with it. And it leads to a more healthy game, I think. Another way to look at that too, though, is I don't do this for fame or anything like that. I do it because it's fun. But it's really interesting to note that when I show up and play at a tournament, I remember reading a thread about Origins, and it wasn't what won. It was, well, what did you play? What did you play? What was your team? What was it that you were trying to figure out?
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting. So that I've got to that point. It's fun, man. Like I like coming up with different things. Like I said, I was up till almost 6 in the morning last night. on a Saturday night with Gen Con so close, trying to figure out, well, what is it? What is it? What is it? I think I found it this year. I found a couple of things this year that I'm still working on. Love it or hate it, it could be a lot of fun though. Either way. If it works out the way that I think it could work out, we'd have another one of the most famous teams out there. That'll be talked about for the next few years.
Right.
And I like that part of it. I don't make the game. I just play within the rules and the parameters that I've been given. All I'm doing is you say these are the way the powers work. These are the way you say the game works. I'm just going to play it then in the way that you told me to play the game, and that's on you if you can't do that. Ed, one of the guys from 4 Points Gaming, said something to me at Origins. He's like, if you can find a team out there that can eliminate 50% of your competition before you even sat down, that's a pretty good place to start. And at these big tournaments like that, you can play test like crazy, but if there's just that one team, there's nothing you can do against.
Right.
It doesn't do any good. So, and I know I'm not the only person out there that's looking for things like that.
No, and I want to add in here because I think in other games, there are people that try to exploit the game. Not maybe exploit's not the best way, but to try to push the envelope on what the game will allow you to do. And yeah, people don't like it because it's hard to beat or it's impossible to beat. But someone, there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, and if it's a challenge to be able to push that envelope and be like, this is what we're allowed to do, and I'm the one that found it out. It's just like, I don't know. It's a way to look at it.
When I look at Dragon Con last year, it was just a clever use of mechanics, just taking the Batmite, Shatterstar, and then replacing Shatterstar with Batmite, or Batmite with Shatterstar, and then calling in my idol across the map. I thought that was really fun, clever mechanics, and it was interesting to sit down because nobody really knew about that team until I showed up there with it at Dragon Con. And the first 2 or 3 games that I sat down matches, one of the guys just sat there staring at the team and goes, "That's brilliant. I never thought about that. That is brilliant." I like that. Right. I like to catch people off and see what that surprise factor. It's really interesting to see. There's so many variables in the game right now. There's so many options with entities, where their starting clicks are, different things you can do. I'm not saying anything's wrong with Iron Pharaoh, but with the creativity and the amount of elements out there, it'd be a real shame to see like an Iron Pharaoh team, sitting back or something like that did win this year. There's just too many options out there.
Right. It's a good piece, and there are some really good teams with it, and I think for it to win, it's probably going to have to get lucky in a bad matchup or get a bunch of good matchups. I think there's teams out there that can beat it pretty easily, but like it is, if you're not prepared for that particular team, it could eat you a lot. And so it's one of those things. But I know I'm curious to see what you're going to bring at Gen Con, and I think a lot of other people are too, and I think other people are also, there's people out there that are like, they probably saved their crazy meta competitive teams for Gen Con because it's cool to win nationals and it's cool to win a rock, but if you're bringing the heat, you want to bring it at Gen Con because you want to be the world champion. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to unveil this super tech early if you think it's really the end-all be-all. So I'm hoping that we see that's the thing. I want to see some gross teams. That's just what I want to see. I don't want to play them because I know I'll probably lose to them, but that's okay. It's like, hey, bravo, that team was brilliant.
That's back to the cruiser team last year, that it caught so many people off. I saw a lot of 2 cruiser teams, but not a 3 cruiser team. And just sitting across from the map from people and kind of look on their face once they realized like what was happening, how the game was going to progress. Again, that final game with Masu, when he moved to the corner of the map on the second turn, I knew I'd already won the game because I was going to cross the map before he was going to be able to get any damage to me. I like that surprise part of the game. I like that going in, but on the flip side of it too, though, there's also other teams out there that I sit down and look and I'm like, well, how does this work?
Right.
And then it becomes to me back to the there's nothing better than sitting across from the table with somebody at a high level tournament, knowing that you're just like the battle of wits back and forth. You know what I mean? Like, well, what happens when I place this? What happens when I do that? The mental part of like that is a blast for me. You know,
Right.
it's probably my favorite part of the game.
It's definitely.
Are you going to try to break the game too at Gen Con, or?
I don't think so. I don't think I can put in, but
You know,
no, I'm probably gonna play more of a standard team.
you know,
Um,
breaking the game is probably the wrong word, but
I guess I know. I try not to praise. I'm not trying to say break the game. I'm trying to say something else.
trying
But
to get creativity, right?
right, yeah, of course.
You know, and
Well, like I was just play testing locally, and like locally, it's locally, but and I posted this team, and you might have seen it, and I didn't necessarily see this combination out there. It was the bullseye with parallax with Rocket Raccoon with Adara, so you can get TK and some prob, Blind Owl, and Alfred and the Bat Signal. And there was no resources on it. And the whole main thing was to see how the Bat Signal really, because I'm like, okay, Bullseye, I like Bullseye. I don't have an Iron Pharaoh, and there's some other figures out there, but Bullseye was one thing I wanted to just play around with. And like, I don't like his defense. Like 17 defense, that's not going to win you any tournaments. Like straight up with the defense. It was like, well, how can you do something? And that's what without going in too much depth on it, but with the Bat Signal kind of.
no, believe me, I was really looking at Bat Signal teams for a minute too, trying to get TK to TK it into my starting zone first turn because it's a heavy object, so I could just start TKing, yo-yoing people and TKing them all the way back to the starting zone, but I couldn't get comfortable with it. I think if the Gamma Bomb was still around, I probably would have tried to figure out with a Gamma Bomb Bat Signal this team with entities just to catch people off, but no more Gamma Bomb.
No more Gamma Bomb.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. There's crazy stuff out there. That the funny thing is, people play the new hotness, but there's still a bunch of old figures out there that are still legal, and people may forget or not notice some combinations out there. And,
Well, and as new figures release, then it opens up the door for older figures. That's something I've done really well with. I have a pretty good memory, so I can remember something. Well, wait a second. What about this figure back in Galactic Guardians? I mean, that's retired now, but you go back and think of something. Well, this mechanic worked back then. How does it interact with the new one? And start piecing the stuff like that together. So it's been interesting. I spent a lot of time in the unit section going through and looking up dials and stuff.
I can't resist. I have to say, I did surprise a lot of people with my team. I think out of the 7 pieces that made up my team, 3 of them were from 10th Anniversary, which is now like the oldest set in Modern. Yep. And a lot of people looked at it, what did you do? So there's a lot of scary stuff still in the stuff that's at the old end of the Modern too.
Oh, exactly. There's and it's interesting to see, like, Mole Man wasn't that big of a figure until Shumagarath came out, and then next thing you know, people are like, oh wait, this figure is playable, and that's why, like I said, there's so many options out there now, especially with the entities. We were kicking around some ideas like with the entity when you put Parallax on the on the 50-point Bruce Wayne that has the 3 different starting clicks, the gravity feed. You put him on his 3rd starting click, and then with the Parallax entity, you pick the one where they no opposing character can ignore pushing damage. You just shut down the whole map, on stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff like that I was going back trying to figure out with the older figures and how they relate to the new entities. And I know there's a bunch of stuff I've probably missed, as much preparation as I could. I know there's some stuff that I've missed. So, like I said, I'm really interested to see. It's not necessarily just what one person's going to show up with. It's going to be, what's the overall field going to look like? Is it going to look like some of the RLCs or the Canadian Nationals, or is everyone going to go out on a limb, try to see what else they can find?
Right. And I think with the qualifiers also help, because there's 2 qualifiers, and if most good players are going to qualify, even if they don't go undefeated, they'll probably do pretty good with the combined total. And what I've noticed, not every person, but a lot of people have qualifying teams, then they have the finals team. So it's like,
you know, at a big tournament, you get pretty confident with it. A lot of people stick with that and keep going forward. Like I said, I plan on spending the first day or two just when I'm not playing, is scouting out and seeing what else is out there. Luckily I get to do that. One interesting thing about the qualifying too, I don't know if we went over that. I think I talked about in the earlier one. There's 7 or 8 auto buys this year into the finals. And because of that, then they're taking the top 8 each day. So there might only be 7, 8, 9 players that actually get a combined total going into the finals between the 2.
Oh wow!
because they're only taking 32 players, so it's 7 or 8 auto buys, 8 from the first day, 8 from the second day, and they'd only leave 8 or 9 for the third day, or from the combined total, I mean. So it's not going to be as easy as it was at Origins, where half the field got in, you know.
Well, now, you said 8 a day, so is that 8 undefeated? Or
if they have 128 people and they're taking the top 8 and they do 4 rounds, then yeah, there would be there would be 4 8-0s. If they have 200 players show up, I don't know what they're going to do with that. If they have a bunch of 4-0s, maybe you have to do a 5th round, go 5-0s then, and see what happens.
Jesus, that would be
It starts
tough.
coming down. 128 after 4 rounds leaves 8 undefeated players.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, man. Geez. So yeah, to be honest, you really have to. Yeah, you're gonna have to. It's not gonna be easy to qualify for sure.
And I did talk to Justin Zoran, and he actually mentioned that the Europeans are coming, and I know a group of players that are coming from Mexico to play, and he said there are people coming from all over the world to play in this one,
Yeah.
which is exciting. And one part of it also just goes to show that they're really trying to step up and make this a world-class event. It's not the American finals anymore.
No, and the addition to the Open from WizKids or whatever they call it. What is it? Is it WizKids Open or HeroClix Open?
I'm not sure what it is, but yeah.
But it's the Open anyways, and I think the tournaments that are going to be kind of. I'm not saying they're trying to replace the Rock. Obviously, WizKids held events are going to be official events, but yeah, the more of those, the better, because then the bigger the game will get and more people can play in these bigger events.
Well, yeah, it's back to we talked to. The more comfortable people get with it. I had a couple of people that played in the Salt Lake RLC that I judged out here, and I had 3 or 4 of them like, hey, I can't do it this year, but next year I want to go to Gen Con with you. That was a lot of fun because I got over a lot of the stigmas of what competitive gaming is.
Right.
Yeah, there's dinks out there. There's a few jerks out there, but it's, for the most part, this is a pretty good community, and the tone that WizKids is set at Origins versus what it was at Gen Con the year before, it was a lot more user-friendly. The fact that they actually announced we're not going to do stupid petty DQs. Don't be a dink. If the guy has a Psychic Blast showing on his dial, and that's the only range combat action he can take, and he shoots you, that's Psychic Blast,
Right.
We're trying to make it make it as user-friendly as possible. There's nothing worse than, man, you travel 1,000 miles, you pay for a plane ticket, pay for a hotel, and get DQ'd over something stupid because the guy wants an easy win. That's horse crap,
Yeah, and then you're paranoid that you're going to be doing something like that you might be playing against someone that's just looking for you to be DQ'd, and you just want to be able to just sit at a table, take a few seconds to relax, and actually maybe say something to your opponent and not feel like, oh my God, this is like death match or something. So.
And I understand, you can let people, for the most part, I'll let people, if they want to go back in action, cool. If they want to go back 2 or 3, that's where, you can't do that. At Dragon Con, or WonderCon, actually, I beat a guy that, he never switched his wild card over to Avengers, and then he took 3 more actions over, so he, was out of actions. I was like, if you were like an action or 2, I'd probably let you go back, but you're like 3 or 4 actions past that,
Right,
so you have to have that line on one part of it, but he completely understood, with cash on the line and the RLC points on the line. I expect, in high-level gaming, you want to have people that are nice, but you do have to have that line also where, look, man, you've already moved, you placed your token, you moved this one, I'm sorry you miscounted the squares, I can't let you go back to the start of your turn,
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that there has to be some kind of, you're trying to be somewhat friendly, but you're going to be competitive, but to the point where you're going to be like, yeah, you can just basically take your whole turnover again. That's where you're going to have to it's not because you're a jerk, it's just like you realize like that we just can't do that. I mean, like, okay, you put your thing down and then a second later you're like, wait, I want to move back 1 square. Like, okay, I mean, that's fine because you really haven't done anything since then.
Yeah, you're still on the same action, that's fine. I know of someone at Origins, I'm not going to say who it was, but they let someone take something back, and then 2 turns later they went to take something back, and they're like, no, I'm not going to let you do it. I thought we had an agreement, so there's a few dinks out there, but for the most part, this is a pretty good community. I think that's the other thing I'm looking forward to is, there's a lot of really nice people. I know George Masu texted me the other day, he's excited to come out. I've been talking to like Scott Crampton, those guys, Matt Esbrook, all those guys. There's just a lot of really good people to play this game, and that's half the fun too, On the flip side, if you end up sitting across from the table from one of those guys, you also know they can really play the game, so that's a fun thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's I wish I got to play this type of competitiveness all the time, because it's the only way to get better is to play people that are, as good as you or better.
oh yeah, because the people that you mentioned and numerous other people spend, close to the amount of time you put into the game, and it's kind of interesting to see where was I thinking what they're thinking, or did they discredit one of the things I'm thinking because they thought something else was better? And yeah,
I think it was Andre, actually. I've heard him say it like 4 times that we were looking at cop cars for Andre from Rubicon. He said it like 4 times. We were looking at cop cars, didn't think they were viable, and I've heard him say that over and over and over.
Yeah.
Discredit him, but maybe someone will see something that you don't see in a piece. Maybe someone will win with Rocket Raccoon this year.
Oh man, maybe it'll be me. No, just kidding. I don't know, man. So that's pretty fun. I don't know if I have anything else. I mean, we've covered a lot. We've definitely covered the amount of time that I wanted to cover. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to end with. We can do that. If not, thanks for sticking with both feeds, and thank you very much for Married with Clicks for helping me out. Thanks. I'm surprised I was actually able to get on here. But
yeah, just the one last thing, because they announced it. I hope that they get that preview out for Harley before Gen Con, so I can finally say something about it. So. I haven't said anything for, it's been a long time, so I'm excited for it. I think everyone's going to really like that figure.
Yeah, I can't wait for it as well. It's a figure that I wanted to be made. When they made it in Batman, we all were probably a little bit disappointed that it wasn't as playable or as good we would have liked to have seen. So knowing that you're making it, it's definitely going to be playable. So
yeah, I'm excited for it. I hope we get that preview off beforehand. So
yeah.
We'll see.
I guess the last thing, since Gen Con is about the same time as Guardians of the Galaxy gets released, are you excited about that, or right now you're just kind of focused on other things?
I've more just been focusing on the dials and things like that, just trying to figure out what to do. I mean, as soon as it gets over, then it's going to be crunch time again, getting ready with Guardians of the Galaxy for Dragon Con, because I'll be out there, see if there's anything else we can miss. But, I mean, the RLC, they've done really great with it. They've had a lot of success, obviously. They're bringing a lot of people to competitive gaming. I'd love to win out there, win the $4,000 with those guys. But on the flip side of it, too, though, you don't get to design the figure, so this is kind of the focus. I'd love to do back-to-back figures.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to do that, for sure. And even though you don't win money at Gen Con, you get enough swag that if you wanted to turn it around, it's not like you walk away with nothing.
They took very good care of me last year, so
it's not bad at all. Well, thank you very much, Jake, and hopefully the next time we do this, my internet will be a little bit more stable. But we'll definitely do this. I want to do another chat.
I was hoping you were going to say, hopefully the next time we do this, we're going to be congratulating you on the win. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, me? I know. I'll be like interviewing myself. I'm just kidding. So no.
Shotgun the exclusive on that interview.
We want to do. I want to do an interview with a bunch of people after Gen Con, so we can actually discuss what kind of shenanigans happen. Because I know there's a number of people that have some trick up their sleeve, and they can't talk about it now, but. After Saturday, it'll be free game because it'll be spread around the internet like wildfire.
I have a hunch after this year's Gen Con that the teams that win, there's the potential for the teams that win could be talked about for a long time after this. So
yeah, I have a feeling just from the people that the little tidbits I've gotten from around, it definitely sounds like we're all going to be like, oh man, that's dirty. So it's good. And before we go here, I'll be seeing you at Gen Con, so hopefully we can meet up and do something. There's going to be a bunch of stuff going on, but we'll definitely have to hang out.
Like I said, my schedule is a little bit more free than a lot of people. Are you doing the team tournament, or?
I have a team tentatively with some friends on Facebook that help me on my Facebook page. and I'm just gonna play it by ear. I'll probably play one of the qualifying and see how that goes. If it goes good, then we'll see. But if not, I might skip out on Friday and just hang out, do some battle royales, and it's fun to be able to do that. It's fun to be able to just take it easy and just have fun. So hopefully I can do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right, man. I appreciate it, and thank you to both of you. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anytime.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep.